welcome to the Mind Chimp podcast. Greg, welcome to the Mind Chimp podcast. How are we doing?
I'm good, sir. I'm good. How are you?
I'm wonderful well. I'm glad to finally get this going. I think it's been, 2 years in the making?
Yeah, at least 12 months. Yeah. It's been going on for a while.
But we're here, and I think you are going to be my last episode as well.
I will settle for the last as opposed to saving the best to last. But yeah, I'm here. That's the main thing. Excited.
I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to it. So usually, Greg, I ask my guests to come armed with a log line. What would yours be?
So I was mulling this over since we last spoke, and quite rapidly today going back and forth on it. But I think it's going to be common sense will prevail.
Common sense will prevail. I like it. We'll come back to that in just a sec. But I need you to pick 6 numbers for me, please, from 1 to 100.
Okay. I will count them as I go. I'll do 1.
Okay.
100.
Yep.
Let's do 88.
88.
50.
50.
2 and 13.
And 13, perfect. We'll come back to them a little bit later on. So,
okay.
So I guess, Greg, we've been talking for a while, but I guess some of my listeners might not know who you are. So maybe you could give us a bit of a whistle-stop tour of kind of who you are, where you've come from, and actually where you are right now, I guess.
Yeah, sure. So the main kind of things I usually sort of say when I kind of introduce myself in the work way is that I do, or my kind of interest and background is in social and experiential learning. So less around things that are traditional learning or classroom based. It's more around people doing things and how they would do them naturally in their everyday life, rather than in this kind of setting of kind of corporate learning, or when they're kind of being told, by the way, this is a learning thing for you to do. And I guess my LinkedIn kind of has it all kind of plastered, but I've been around. So I've spent some time at BP, where I guess that there was a lot of really, really great minds there that are still there, and some that moved on. I think you've had most of them on your show as well. And did a quick bit of time at ASOS, which was pretty interesting, very different to other places I've been. GP, where you are now. I was at HSBC via GP. And then from there, I went to where I am now. I'm at PMI, so Philip Morris. I've been there since October, not last year, but the year before, so about 18 months now. And most of my roles have been in kind of social experiential learning. And then this time with PMI, it started off the first year pretty much that. Lots of really fun projects to talk about there. And then in December, just gone, I was approached to move into the they call it Gold Studio, which is global online learning design. So the acronym fits the terminology quite well. So basically, it's like an internal design team within PMI. So there's 6 of us there now. So graphic, UX, animation designers, and a dev as well. So really, really crazy talented team. I just I feel a bit like the silly one at times. Like I can't do what those guys do, but collectively we get some really cool things out the door. So yeah, so it's been a bit of a whirlwind of all sorts of things.
Nice. So I guess kind of, you mentioned ASOS was different, and it was kind of a different experience. How do you mean?
I would say it probably it was a really good move. I met some really cool people. Very good. So I'd been at BP for 6-7 years before then. So even just on the face of it, if you imagine what working for the great big global oil and gas company is like, going to work to a very cool, online fashion company, like it's night and day in terms of working for both of those. And obviously things that come with a very big corporate that is a bit more established, has lots of process and budget and very set ways of doing things, to go in somewhere like ASOS, where as much as they have a very outward facing, they've got it down in terms of their outward facing approach, internally it felt a bit like, not in a negative way at all, just felt a bit like they were kind of working out what they were going to do. And I know you had Adam on, who was again, great to kind of bounce ideas off and stuff. But again, I think they were kind of getting there. So I've seen some of the stuff that they've done, way after I'd left, which was very cool. Lots of cool things. I think when I was there, it's probably wasn't the right time. Sorry, right place, wrong time. That was the best way to explain it. So, but again, very different to working at BP. So maybe a bit of a culture shock for me at that point.
Yeah, I can imagine that's quite a big change, right? It's quite oil and gas to fashion. So obviously at PMI, you mentioned some of the cool stuff that you're up to. I guess maybe you could share a little bit of what that is like. You mentioned you moved on to a team with UX and stuff, and we've spoke about this in the past around the future of L&D teams and stuff like that. So yeah, maybe you could share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. So I sit in the Centre of Excellence team for learning. So rather than functional team or a market team, it's a kind of almost like the global L&D team. Best way to word it. And so before I moved into that design team, I was doing a learning design role. And I guess we've spoken about this before, like, when you go for interviews for places and they basically promise you the earth on a stick, or they promise you all the things you say, for my next role I want to have this, 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 and this, and this. And someone just sits across and nods and goes, yes, we can do all of those things. And then you start working there, or you hear from other people and you go, actually, it's another fairly generic corporate learning role. When I was interviewing at PMI, I kind of asked the things that we've spoken about loads of times about, what I'd like from the role, and the freedom to be a bit creative. Obviously, with the caveat that it is for a corporate company. It's not a startup. It's not my own thing. And it was all kind of mentioned. Be creative. It's encouraged. Free thinking. And I've not really looked back. It's been everything that I've kind of wanted and more has happened. So in terms of projects, with change is a big thing for a lot of people in a lot of companies for a lot of different reasons. One of the projects I worked on was around helping people understand what change is for them. So rather than just a generic, we're going to put you through a change program and give you a generic kind of change model to walk through. I wanted people to be able to take it for themselves, so a bit of self-discovery and work out what it really means for them as an individual, as opposed to, well, I've given you the leaflet on change, so can you please just get on with it and be cool with it. So the brief I got just before, not this Christmas, last Christmas, for my boss was, oh, by the way, just while you're off, over Christmas, can you just think about a solution for change for tens of thousands of people, but it has to be digital. Have a nice Christmas. And it was super brief. And I was thinking, okay, that's interesting. And I thought, I'll have a think about it. So I came up with an idea of around like and before I tested it with anyone, I thought I'll run this by them and see what they say. And it was around like a digital time capsule, so that teams can start to think about, change doesn't happen overnight, whether it's the change you're personally going through or your team, your company, whatever it is. And also the behaviors that go around that, and the mindset shift, and all the things that go around it, and also the dependency, so people around you, how that affects what's happening for you and stuff. So I kind of thought about, well, if you bit like when you use things like MyFitnessPal, or if you ever done the Joe Wicks body coach 90 days thing where you take a photo of yourself at the beginning, after month 1, month 2. So rather than taking a photo every day, you just do it in increments and say, do some work, then see what's happened. Like look back at what you've achieved in that last 3 or 4 weeks. And then look again in 4 weeks' time, look what you've achieved over the last 4 weeks and the 4 weeks before that. And you slowly start to see what's happening. So I was kind of thinking about it in that kind of more of that kind of fitness tracker way. In that rather than people just saying, I go on a course and I can get it, that they would start to document certain things at certain times over a longer period of time. And that becomes their kind of timeline as to, I start here, this is where I am right now. I do some things, I log it. I do some more things, I log that. And then you start to look back, and rather than feeling like I've just logged a load of stuff and I don't really know what's going on, you actually have this chronological timeline to say, that intervention halfway through, that was really good. And that's now what's helped me. And I can see how that shaped me through the next 2 or 3 things that I've just done. Or I know that was something at the very beginning that I thought I needed to work on, but really it's actually not that important. It's this thing over here. And you have this, I want to say scrapbook or kind of time capsule thing where you dig it back up and you look through it and go, that was great. I can see the change that I've gone through and I can find out what's important to me. And I want teams to go through it together so you still have that individual element, but you also have that kind of, I don't want to say tribe mentality, but you have that kind of group where you kind of say, well, we're all dependent on each other. So there might be a day where I ask you for some help because I know that you're really good at something, or you're mentally capable of something I'm, struggling with. But then the week after, it might be a different topic, and it's something that you come to me for support. So that's how teams, help each other out. We're all here to achieve something. So just help each other out, share skills. You don't always have to go and ring a trainer. You can leverage the people around you. So that's literally being released. We did some pilots at the end of last year, a couple of pilots around the globe, some really great feedback, lots of, let's just see what people do with this over a long period of time. And we're starting to roll that out at the moment to market. So it's been about a year in the making. So I'm really excited to see that go out and see what people do with it. So exciting times.
Yeah, I really like that. I think, when we talk about experiences and creating experiences, I guess there's application, right? There's that real tangible application of it. But actually, I think one of the biggest things which you're talking about there is kind of that shared experience, because, a lot of times the most important experiences and the ones we remember are the ones that we shared, right? That's like why we remember weddings and christenings, and unfortunately, sometimes why we remember funerals is because, me and you could have a great shared experience, and in 5 years' time, I can go, oh, do you remember that time when X, Y, Z? And it can instantly recall that. So I think what you tapped into there is also that power of that shared experience, all of you going through change.
Well, that's it. And I guess it's, you could pull 10 people from, if you went into any office in any company and just pulled 10 people at random off the floor and ask them what's happening for them at the moment with whatever's happening for their company, I imagine there's going to be some similarities. So things like, I don't know, there's a new head of coming in. Nobody knows who they are. Nobody knows what they're about. It's all very secret. Some people might be a bit nervous. Some people might be very excited, but it all ties back to the same reason. But then the actual emotions and the byproduct of that can all be different depending on the person. Like, how do I talk to that person? What if my role becomes different, or, whatever it's going to be, like maybe not the best example, but the point of it being is like you were saying, this shared experience. And the reason I wanted teams to go through it rather than individuals is that they encourage each other and they can rely on each other, and that nobody goes to work and sits there on their own in a room or on an office floor filled with other people and never speaks to them. Like, everyone speaks to at least the people around them. So why should they go through a program that means that they just go on it on their own, don't talk to anyone. I want them to share that. I want them to be a bit like when you get things like Facebook memories pop up. 12 months ago you did this. Or celebrate this 6 years tag to this person. Trying to take those things that people already take on it or use every day and just start to put it into a learning solution so that people don't feel that it's more of a I think the best word for it is, so you don't feel like it's another kind of corporate program being rolled out to them, but it actually feels like it's something that's beneficial to them trying to achieve something, so they can actually track their own progress, and it's not a generic set of progress. So it's not just, I've ticked all the boxes, so I'm done. It's I've drawn out the boxes I want to tick, and I've chosen when to tick them. That's the point. So it becomes very personal to them from that shared experience.
And I think it's spot on. I think, for me, this kind of falls in this macro experience design, because for me, I think experience design has a light side and a dark side. Stay with me here, Greg. So let's try to explain this. So and the reason behind it is when you have an experience, you experience, just something as simple as the start of an experience, right? You can go into an experience curious, or you can go into an experience fearful. Like one's light and one's quite curious child, and another one's quite fearful. I'm not looking forward to this. I don't want to be here. And most experiences have that light side, exploration versus hiding. There's two different sides to that experience, and I think when we talk about experiences, there's always experiences happening, and sometimes you're the kind of you're the antagonist, you're the main person in that experience, right? If you was to put it in a play, you're the lead actor, but sometimes you're also the kind of like backstage, not the backstage, but you like the supporting cast. And I think it's understanding at which, even though that experience is happening for you, sometimes you're not the lead in that experience, and you're part of somebody else's experience. It's a weird one to try and explain, but I think it's really powerful.
Yeah, for sure. I completely get what you mean. I think it's I think what I'm trying to do is on a similar level to that, but even on a more simplistic level, is that whilst you'll kind of help you get to those bits where you are the lead character, to use your analogy, and those things that are your Oscar-winning moments. If we take the analogy even further, there's going to be bits where it kind of maybe doesn't, that scene doesn't really take off. Nobody really cares. But the reason you're doing something might be, or the things you're doing might actually affect somebody else. And that's what you can then support. Or there's bits where we talk about things like experimenting with work, like new behaviors, like new ways of working together. And they can be tasks or behaviors, but getting people just to try them out and see what works, see what doesn't work. Is it something where you can be more efficient if you're more direct? It's like, well, you might be, but you might end up upsetting each other. So, what's the happy medium? Try again. Document it. Talk about how you felt with that. Get people to understand it's okay to try things out and fail and go, well, that didn't work, but here's why it didn't work. We could maybe do this. Here's the byproduct of that. I think just helping people to kind of have that space to try things out, and understand what's right for them. That's the quite a lot of it.
Yeah, and I think things such as like the hero's journey and mapping out that is really important when it comes to kind of experience design, for sure. But I guess kind of coming back to something what we said right at the start, which was your tagline, and I kind of just want to break that down a little bit actually. So you mentioned kind of common sense will prevail. So yeah, maybe walk us through that and break that down a little bit.
Yeah. So a couple of guys I work with at the moment are really skilled and have a lot of knowledge on UX. I know it's a term that you and I spoke about this before, where some people not even just in learning, but in lots of industries, just throw the term UX around as if they know what it means and they spent time designing it. And they haven't. They just think it's something they should be saying. Whereas these guys really, really get it, and they really, they can really kind of walk and talk it. And it's really helped me come along in my understanding of it, and how I can not only use it, but how it affects things like straight out learning design, or even things like usability, those kind of things. So one of the things that we were talking about previously, and it kind of just fell out of conversation. Someone was saying you have to remember that what you're designing isn't for you. Like, it's not for you to take home and for you to use, it's for an audience. So you have to know a little bit about your audience, or actually quite a lot about your audience. And you have to understand why you're even doing this thing, and what's the point of it? What would happen if you didn't do that thing? Like, if you didn't release your product, or you didn't go with that design, does anyone care? Would anything happen? Like, would anything bad happen? And a lot of that just feels very, very logical, very common sense. Like, you wouldn't do a lot of things blindfolded. Like, you wouldn't cross the road blindfolded. You would look and check. You wouldn't do your shopping with all the labels taken off in the supermarket. So why would you design something completely blind as to who you're doing it and why you're doing it, or who you're doing it for and why you're doing it for them? It feels a bit like it's just common sense to do these things, and to ask them, some really basic questions like, what would stop you doing this? What stops you doing these things at the moment? What challenges do you have? Why would this work for you? Just because you like something doesn't mean it's good for you. Like, I love chocolate. I love cake and chocolate and all the things that are bad. If I have too much of it, it's really bad for me. I'm not really a big fan of broccoli, but I have to have it. It's good for me. So it's that kind of, rather than just saying, what do you like? And I'll give it to you. It's more, why are you doing this? What's the point? And it just, again, it's more that common sense kind of thinking around learning design and visual design and the execution of all of those things combined.
Yeah. And I think you touched on a point there, and it's something I keep going back, when I'm working with clients and stuff, is similar. Like, I kind of call the two key points of sense making and sense checking. And sense making is something like, is this what you're talking about really kind of what you think it is? And a lot of times it is that kind of thing of getting to the root cause, right? Like, oh, we've got this is a problem. Actually, once you get in and dig in and start answering them, like, say what can seem like common sense questions, and you go, actually, this is not the initial, and it's like a masking cause, right? People cover the root cause with these masking kind of causes, and I think that's sense making and understanding your audience. Like, I think we've talked about this in the past, Greg, but we have our own little kind of sanity checks. Like, mine is my Leah test, and I run a lot of the stuff what I design or get an understanding. I'll reach out to my niece and my nephew, and which is bizarre because, like, they're not in the corporate world, right? But I also think, actually, I don't need them to be experts in it, but if you get the general gist of something, then I broke it down to be so it's more inclusive rather than exclusive. And I think we've got our own little tests at kind of how we do that. But one of the things what I have noticed recently is dyslexia. So, like, we've spoke, I have dyslexia, but yet we never really see many people going, actually, we need to run this with people who have got, learning difficulties or struggling or dyslexics or whatever. It's an interesting topic for sure.
I think it's almost understanding that this comes down to a usability point. I think understanding, once you understand what it is you're trying to achieve, then you almost work backwards as to what's going to stop somebody achieving that or getting the most out of it. And is it something like, and it could be something like language, like, it's only going to be available in one language, but you're sending it out to 50 countries. That could be a straight out, what about countries that don't speak the language you're putting it in? Or then it could be down to things like, as you're saying, people that are dyslexic, and it could be around, how do we make this so that it's not pulling on it's the triggers to get to the impact, and not things that are going to slow people down, and not those triggers that don't help. So maybe reducing the amount of text or speaking too fast, or, is it something more visual that is more universal? So, things like the use of icons. Again, this came out of some chats with our designers, that icons are a great way to universally display some information. You don't need to have any words on them. It can just be, here's an icon. Everyone knows that 3 lines horizontally stacked on top of each other probably means a menu on a website. You click on those 3 lines, you probably get a menu that pops down. You don't need to put the word menu in there in any language. So, but with things like you were saying about usability and dyslexia, that kind of stuff, people use things like that as more decoration, or I need to fill some space here, so I'll put that in. But they're not thinking about the function or the functionality of what they're doing. And I think that's a huge part of design, is if you can explain it to somebody that doesn't get it, or has things that will hinder them getting to the point of it, can you remove them? And can they still get there? So again, we were talking about your grief with the USB-C things on Apple products these days.
Yes,
you know what, the dramas of USB-C, but like how they make a shed ton of money out of selling laptops, which are really great. So how much detail do they have to go through to say, we're just going to put this out there and spend a lot of money and time building these things, and we have no idea if anyone's going to buy them. What do they go through to say this one product has to fit an inordinate amount of countries, skill levels, for people that are super basic, just want a nice thing, to people that are incredibly talented and technical and need a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
How do they find a one size fits all for all of those people? So must be a huge amount of consideration and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that with something like, say with Apple, they went for the exclusive first, right? Like originally Apple was the exclusive thing, the thing what was costly, and they targeted that and created their demographic quite well. I think over time now, like you say, it has become a bit better, more at being more inclusive and more inviting for others. But I think Apple are ballsy, aren't they? They get rid of the auxiliary, they get rid of certain things, and most of the time other companies follow the Apple suit. I think the only time they really haven't is probably with things like the mouse, Apple mouse. My God, that's a bad product. But yeah, we're not here to slate Apple products, I guess. But I guess kind of one of the things I want to touch on, like we talked about, the time capsule and stuff, which you mentioned a little bit, like the time machine. But and feel free, Greg, to take this personal, professional. But when we go in for interviews and we're kind of told, you've got to show the best side of you and all the things you've done. And I think actually one of the questions we should be asking for interviews is actually, what's your failure resume? Like, what is your failure CV? What's the one thing what jumps out on your failure CV?
There's probably quite a few. I'd actually even say the time capsule thing. The first time I piloted it, it got panned. Like, it got seriously panned by my immediate peers. One of which I won't say who it was, but because I think they might be listening at some point. But one of them said, if I could throw my laptop out the window, I would have done. And I was like, oh man, I did say be brutal, but I didn't mean like literally so brutal. But it was really great feedback. So I was like, well, okay, why is that? Why did you want to do these things? And it was really great feedback. It's things that I didn't even think about because I'd spent so long staring at it. I was like, this is great. I can't wait to see what they think about it. And then they were like, I really hate this. I really don't like it. And here's the things that I don't like about it. But it made a really good product at the end of it, which was great, which was really great. But then I guess on a more career level, I guess, I don't know. It's, I guess you only know once you start doing something. And again, I know we keep saying we've spoken about this before, but we have spoken about this before is that, you kind of, one of the things that I had in a previous interview was the guy kind of stopped halfway through and just said, look, I'm buying, you're selling. What am I buying? What are you selling? As in me for the company and him employing me. And I'd said, went through my, my spiel of why you should hire me. He went through a little kind of thing of, here's what I'd expect in this person to do the role. And we kind of spoke about it. And I just thought both of us felt a bit like afterwards, the more I think about it, the more I thought was great question. I think we both panicked because he was running out of time and I had to think on the spot, what are the 5 things I should say that, will get me this job? But I guess, until you do those things, until you go through them, you don't really know, or you don't really know enough, or you don't know enough to make a proper decision. You're just making a guess. So if you get offered 3 jobs and you choose, job 2, all you're doing is guessing on what they've told you. You've not done those 3 jobs yet. You've not worked in those places or done the commute, worked with the team, done some projects. You're kind of guessing. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, hindsight, right? Hindsight's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing.
Yes.
So I guess flipping that question on its head, and this is probably more a personal one, really, but what's been and you can do it over, I don't know, over the last 3 years, 5 years, whatever, but what's been your most personal success or your most recent one?
That's a thinker. I think the stuff I'm doing now, and it's not just because I work for them right now, but I'd say that the products that I've worked on in the last 18 months here have been the most rewarding. There's been no kind of, if there's been restrictions, it's been kind of like proper challenges to say, this could be good, but could it be better? Or have you thought about this? Or before you release it, have you done this? Or let's go and test this a few more times and get some more feedback. All these kind of things, basically things that kind of made every project that I've worked on so far, been really proud to say, look what I've done. I'm really keen to show this rather than just, oh, that project's done, I move on to the next one now. And I would say, the main 3 that I've worked on so far at PMI have been all things I would say in terms of every solution or every project I've worked on previously. Those have been the ones that have not just been a kind of a nice idea, that have been knocked back into more of a standard solution. They've been kind of encouraged and seen through to the end, and really pretty happy with all of them, I'd say. So I'd say pretty much my time at PMI so far has been my biggest achievement or physical success, whichever way it was worded. But and the things I've done there. So,
hey, sorry we interrupted your podcast, but we just wanted to let you know about Venndorly, where finding learning has developed. At Venndorly, we understand the pain points of looking for reliable vendors and securing new clients. We've created a platform to help you with this, save you time, and help you flourish. We want you to be the first to see it, so head over to vendorly.co.uk and take a peek. That's Venndorly with a double N.
So I guess these are going to be more like more buzz questions, I guess. Quick fire round if you like. So if you had to give a gift as a book to 5 people, what book would you give?
What book would I give? I would give them 1001 albums to listen to before you die.
Okay. And why that one?
I have never finished it, so I would want them to divide and conquer and help me create the ultimate playlist. But also, I got it a couple of years. Well, I got a couple of maybe 5-10 years ago, and obviously there's been more things come out since then. And I'm just wondering, out of everything ever that's been released up until whenever that book came out 5-10 years ago, how did they condense it down to 1001? And what would I immediately strike off? And then also just have a completely nerdy muso chat about the Strokes and whatever else is in there that we think is great. So yeah, I think there would be lots of late night conversations about good, bad and argumentative albums.
There's definitely a podcast in the making for that, surely. Just literally pull out one of the albums, talk about it, pull out another album. There's 1001 episodes right there for you if you want.
I I know James Acaster's doing something on, I think it was 2017 or 2018. That was like he was saying it was the perfect year for music. So I think he's already beat me to it, and he already has a pretty good following. I think it might be me and you listening to it if I did that, but we could still do it.
So this next one then is the dreaded billboard question, and
Okay.
So story goes like this: you've got a billboard, and it's outside a stadium, and 1 million people are going to come out of this stadium, and we're going to see your billboard, your message, or what you do with that billboard. What would you do or say to inspire people?
What am I inspiring them to do?
That can be up to you.
Maybe that's it. That's what I put up. What am I inspiring you to do? And then that's it. And then let them think about it. Hypothetical.
Okay. I like it. Good thinking.
In a nice set font, just to upset the designers in my team. I don't want them to make it pop. I hate it when I say that. Yeah. What am I inspiring you to do? I think, the more I think about it, it sounds quite profound, but it probably is potentially meaningless. But I think if you read a great big question on a billboard, you're probably going to think about it.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think that's a good shout. I think it's a good choice, that one, for sure. So this next one. Can you remember the first time you ever got in trouble?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the first time I remember, I've been told there's been times before then, but I can't remember them because I was too young. But I can remember the first time. Yeah.
Want to share what happened there?
So the times. So I have a brother who's 2 years older, and so we always, as kids, were and still are very, very close, but obviously don't fight as much now because we're grown ups and a bit more sensible. But as kids, we probably brawled a little bit. But I remember the first proper time I got in trouble. I'd been given some money for an ice cream, and we lived up a hill, and then at the bottom of the hill on the corner was a petrol station where we got ice creams. So I remember running down the hill and running at the door to go and get my ice cream because I love chocolate and all things nice. But the glass was so clean, I didn't realize it was shut. Like the door was shut, and I just ran full pelt straight into the door. I knocked myself out and shattered the glass on this petrol station.
Whoa.
And I got in a bit of trouble for that. But I had a really massive lump on my head, so it's a pretty good story to go to school and be like, hey, good, I did. Not when I went home was like, oh yeah, I still did that. Yeah, I still didn't get my ice cream.
So I guess kind of staying with your childhood a little bit. When you was in school and the teacher used to say to you, Greg, what do you want to be when you grow up? What did you used to say?
Probably a load of really stupid things, but I think it ranged from silly things like being in Guns N' Roses, or being some kind of famous musician, or just being a musician at some point. And then I don't think, again, and I've heard a lot of people say they never as a child or during school thought I would like to be in learning. But I did want to be an art teacher when I was in sixth form. I had a really cool art teacher called Mr. Banks, who was like a clean version of the dude from Big Lebowski. Like he had kind of beard and kind of longer hair, and was just very cool and was really into art and cool drinks. And he was just a cool guy. Turned us on some really cool bands, and he was awesome. And I thought, oh, if I can be like him when I'm older, that's pretty cool. But other than that, I think it was either an extra member in Guns N' Roses or an art teacher.
Okay, cool. So I guess kind of moving from teaching to learning, I'm sure there's a tangible link there somewhere. But what I kind of want to dig a little bit into R&D, I guess, and obviously just being mindful of time. I just want to you know, you're on social medias and stuff, which we can put in your LinkedIn and stuff. But do you think social media? What's your take on L&D's presence on social media at the moment?
I don't know. It's a tricky one to. I don't know. It's a tricky one to kind of not sound like I'm bagging on it, and I'm not at all. But it feels a bit like when you go on social media or when you go to Learning Tech or other conferences, it's a lot of not always the same people, but it's a lot of people collectively all saying the same things, all saying the right things, but with no context. And I don't, and I know quite a few of those people, and they all get it. I know that they get it because I know what they do, and then, you know, we talk, and I've worked with some of them, and you know, they're incredibly smart people, and they probably don't want to give all that context every time because, you know, their tweets would be 20,000, like an essay every time. But it's when people just sort of say the same sort of stuff. So on LinkedIn, you get people posting these kind of motivational things, and these really inspiring stories, but with no context as to what they did, what the actual product was, and how it helped. It's just a very light, inspirational thing of, I had a really great time doing this. And it's like, okay, well, I had a great time doing this as well. Or we should be closer to, you know, the business. And it's like, okay, I agree, but how? And is that different business to business? And I don't know. I don't know whether it's just a symptom of social media only gives you X amount of space to fill, or there's just so much to cram in. You know, because you can just scroll, and you know. Did you ever hear the term thumb stoppers?
No.
So, like, someone was telling me about, or I read an article somewhere about, like, when you're scrolling down a feed, whether it's Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever it's going to be, like, the thing that makes you stop that scroll with your thumb is a thumb stopper. So basically, like, it's more of a marketing thing of, you know, you're just seeing a blur of content because you're scrolling quite quickly. What's the thing in your content that makes someone go, oh, I'm going to watch that? What is it? Do they see a silhouette of a cat and go, oh, it's a cat video, I'm going to watch this? Or it's a really colourful image in a sea of grey images, they go on and stop and see those colourful things. Like, I don't know what the thumb stopper would be for me if I was looking for some interesting learning stuff on social media. I don't know what it would be. So I'm not a huge contributor to it. So that's on me. But I don't know, there just seems to be lots of talk, but not as much practical advice for people that maybe don't get it as much, or they hear things like, we should be close to the business, but then they're kind of going, okay, how do I do that? What's the first thing I should do? So I don't know. I'm glad there is a presence because at least someone's talking about it. I just don't know if it's I don't know if it's as useful as it could be. But then likewise, I don't contribute to it very much, so I'm not exactly particularly helpful on it myself. So I don't know. What's your view on it?
Oh,
I know you're quite a heavy contributor.
Good deflection here, Greg. So I bounce between this question, and the reason why I put it in there is because I think it's an enjoyable question to kind of think on. Depends. I think there's you've got 10% of the people doing 90% of the noise.
Yeah.
I mean, 80-20 kind of demonstrates that. But I don't know. Sometimes I want to use social media to escape your LinkedIn social media. I want to use social media to escape my professional social media, and I find it's too easy to blur them two now. So, like, for example, Instagram. My Instagram is pretty personal, right? It's like, it's my personal stuff. It's my personal friends. It's a bit like what happens with Facebook. Before you know it, you've got work people adding you on Facebook, and you've got. I mean, I get requests on Instagram from like LMS providers, And I'm just like, wow.
Mm.
So I like it. I like it. I think it's valuable. I also think it's, it can be a bit destructive sometimes. I think
Mm.
social media makes it easier to kind of lift and shift over people's stuff. So I don't know. I
Yes. Yeah.
sit on it. I sit on it. It depends on what day you get me, I guess, and if I've been triggered by something or not.
I do see what you mean about it being easy to steal stuff. And again, I'm not a huge poster on kind of learning social media platforms or posts or anything like that, but it is interesting when you read something and it's kind of the topic of the moment, and you see somebody has taken some time to write out their thoughts on it, and then somebody else goes and posts it, different image, slightly different title. You're thinking, I've read this somewhere. Either this is a really really good topic, or it's a really prevalent topic and everyone's talking about it, or someone has written it and some others have just literally stolen it, plagiarized it, and slapped it back up somewhere else under a slightly different guise. But
Yeah.
But yeah, but like you're saying as well, the like you said, the 10% doing 90% of the noise. Yeah, but then they're all people that kind of know their stuff. So at least if there are going to be 10% of people making most of the noise, at least it's the right people who know their stuff, and they can, if you did challenge them on it, they can probably give you a pretty good response. So it's not. I don't feel like I don't feel like when I read stuff from that 10% that they're winging it, which is nice. So you do, as a kind of bit of a voyeur, you do kind of read stuff, go, oh, that's really interesting. I might look into that a bit more because I trust the source. I just wonder if it's useful for people that may be brand new to this thing, or have been in learning for a long, long time and have never really had to shift their thinking in any way, and they're kind of thinking, well, I've always done this and it always works, so why would I do something differently, or why would I think about these terminologies, or is that just going to be the next buzzword that people say for 6 months and I'll wait for the next one and just write it out? I don't know. I guess it takes all sorts.
It's a tricky one for me. So I've had people lift and shift my work, and to some extent I'm like, good, it's there to be lifted and shifted in some respect. But for me, it's that thing of not just giving a nod to where you've got it from. So like I've seen someone lift and shift my work and try to mark it as their work, and it's literally lifted and shifted one of my blog posts from LinkedIn. And I'm just like, I mean, I don't know. The problem is obviously if someone's lifting and shifting or copying your work or whatever, the saying goes like it's the highest form of whatever, like that someone's copying. But the problem I have is if I spent 4 or 5 years researching this and doing this, and then someone comes along, lifts and shifts it, it completely loses its value and watered down. And then I think the domino effect of that is it only needs to happen 3 or 4 times for it to completely lose its value and be 1,000 miles away from the original idea.
I agree with you. The only thing I would challenge is the practical application of it. So just because anyone can, I was going to say my mum could. My mum's probably not the best example. My mum could potentially copy and paste your article. Whether she could paste it, I don't know, but she could probably copy it. But somebody who is a bit more tech savvy can copy your article, change a few words, and post it back up. So they give the perception that they can do it. So they have all the tools and they have the words because it's your words, and they can post it back up. But if someone actually asked them and said, can you give me an example? Or I'm doing something and I want to use that. Can you give me a hand or some guidance on that? And they can't, then that's when they start to fail. And there's a really good what's his name? Roger Waters line from Pink Floyd, where some guy asked him, is it like, the height of their kind of mania of Dark Side of the Moon? Someone says to him, you've got all this equipment and there's only like 4 of you. Like, are you actually doing anything? Or are you just turning machines on and getting it to do it for you? And he basically sort of stares this guy out for a bit and then just says, another 4 guys in here and leave this with them for a month. but they won't be able to create what we've just created. And he's basically saying, firstly, we're incredibly intelligent and we're incredibly talented, and we've honed our craft over years and years, and we've made Dark Side of the Moon, which is pretty mental. Like, you could get 4 other guys in and just make bleeps and bloops, and it's irrelevant. So just because they have the same machines, or in your case the same content, it doesn't mean they can actually do the practical application of it. So I think that's where my kind of social media kind of sitting on the fence is a little bit, is there's a lot of people with the right chat and saying the right things, but I don't know if there's enough people talking about the practical application of it. And like I say, I'm not a huge poster, so I'm probably not the right person to say, can somebody help them out with this? So but yeah, that's the way I would look at it. I agree with you, it's frustrating, but I would just sleep safe in the knowledge that they probably can't execute it the way you would, because it's your idea, it's your content.
So I guess kind of keeping on social media for a second, because we've only got a couple of minutes left now, Greg. Who's the top 5 people you recommend? And this doesn't have to be professional, it can be anyone. But who's the top 5 people you recommend people should follow on social media?
For learning, or just in general, or for jokes?
Yeah, you can go wherever you want to go with it, Greg.
Who would I say? So one of the guys on my team is a huge LBC lover, so definitely James O'Brien for all your news and your lefty getting upset with stuff. That's probably more of a political thing. I would say also, going back to learning, obviously Nick is pretty good, post pretty regular, and also I don't follow Roger Shank, but I know that they get into a back and forth quite a lot, which is quite interesting. So at least you see those, which is nice. I'm going to open up my Twitter now, actually, and just have a quick look, because there's a couple of people I would say pretty decent. Gemma, I know you've had Gemma on a few times. Again, knows her stuff. Definitely worth following, and again, avid poster, so loads of stuff on there to follow. Who else is there? These are all the BP people anyway so far, apart from James O'Brien, unless he's ever worked at BP. Who else? I'm going to flick through as we're talking. I wasn't expecting this one. I would also follow, there's a friend of mine, it's his wife, called Betty Adamou, Adamou, and she's got a company called Research Through Gaming, which is quite an interesting concept. So I would definitely check her out. She has a book out on the same company as Nick through Coding Page. So I would definitely check her out. And hers is pretty much all work stuff, so there's very little personal things. So if you want to use gaming to help out research, you have. And I would say I've got one more. Either I think it's called Fast Future or Rohit Tower. Either one of those two, for more kind of futurist kind of, I guess they're kind of guesses at the moment, but kind of educated guesses on what the future of technology, and not just learning but society and all those things will be. Some really kind of terrifying but exciting things that come out there as well. So
cool. Okay, cool. I'll have a search for them and try and get them in the show notes. So yeah. I guess last 2 or 3 questions and we're done, really, Greg. So right at the start of the session, I asked you kind of, what do you want to be when, what did you want to say to the teacher when she asked you what do you want to be when you grow up? And as you know, we never really stop growing up and growing older. So if I was to say to you now, Greg, what do you want to be when you grow up? What would you say?
Right now?
Yeah.
Oh dear.
A day? All right. Okay.
No, I'm having to think now. It's what would I want to be right now? I don't know. I quite like, or I really like, and it sounds very cheesy and very like I'm towing the line, but it's true. I think the more I do it, the more I kind of get into it. I quite like pretty much straight out experience design, whether it's for learning or it's for product design or something like that. I don't think I've got that bit defined yet, but basically it's the satisfaction of saying I've made something and it's good. Like it's those two things basically. And I think you can only really get to that. You can get to one or the other, but you can only really get both if you do proper experience design. So whether that's, like I say, the creating the service, building the product, that bit is a grey area for me. But I think something along those lines, at least you know you've achieved something. I don't think if I won the lottery and I could do anything I want, I would sit around all day. I think I'd get too bored too quickly.
Cool. Okay. And I guess I asked you to pick 6 numbers right at the start. And the thing is you're on a desert island and these are 6 items you've picked up. And I just need to know what you're going to do with them. So
okay.
Are you ready for your 6 items?
Hit me.
So you've got a condom.
A what?
A condom.
Okay.
A twister mat. So you know the game Twister, and you used to have a mat.
Yeah.
You've got that. You've got a shoelace, a key ring, a rubber tire, and a rubber duck.
Oh man! So I picked all the best things then, right? And what am I going to do with them?
Yeah, on this desert island.
Oh man! I've got a key. Is it a key ring or a key ring holder? Those little circle things.
Yeah, one of the little circle things.
Oh, the rubbish bit. I would make the smallest trap with my shoelace and keyring holder, so I can catch some food. I'm assuming I'm stranded and I've got there's no food. I've got to go and find that as well.
Correct.
So that's my tiny kind of lasso. I'm presuming small bugs at this point because I'm not getting that around anything tasty. The tire and the rubber duck. I can go out to the sea in that, and I'll take the duck for a bit of company. I feel like I'm in the bath, but just a really big bath if I'm on a desert island. What else did I have? So those are 4 things I've used up. I had 6, right? There was 2 other things I haven't used up.
So what have we got? Rubber duck, tire, key ring, lace, twister map, and a condom.
Twister mat even. I would... No, do you know what? I'd keep the tire back. I'd have the tire and the twister map, and then the other item I would use it to put around the tire, and then I can have the mat as a base. Then I can fill it with water, and that could be my gigantic cup. So yeah, that's what I do. So I haven't got any utensils. I haven't got anything to hold water apart from my hands. So yeah, I'd make the tiniest lasso to catch some food, have a gigantic thing to drink out of, and then the duck. He can just be my pal. Like I can just walk around with him. He's my pal. He's my company.
I like it. Good skills, Greg. Good skills.
I think I'd be dead in 3 days.
So Greg, where can people find out a little bit more about you and stay up to date with what you're up to?
You can find me on LinkedIn. So we're connected. So I'm in your connections, or you can find me on there. And you can get me on Twitter. But it is the ramblings of somebody who is upset that they can't see Guns N' Roses on Friday and other things about UFC fights that happened years ago. I'm like, oh, that looks interesting, and maybe I'll watch that one day. So yeah, don't expect anything too coherent from my Twitter, but LinkedIn is probably the most sensible place.
Awesome. Cheers, Greg. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Nice one. Thank you, sir.
Enjoy the rest of the evening. Bye-bye.
You too. Cheers, pal.